together and we dance and sing and love one another. When the music starts, we all get together and we dance and sing and love one another. It's a gorgeous thing, the feeling you bring. Freedom is finally mine. Oh my God, how might I strive in this modern life without you by my side? And I believe my shattering teeth will be sad if we need your undeniable light. I want to hear your haunting voice through naked ears while tasting tears of utter joy. 'Cause when the music starts, we all get together and we dance and sing and love one another. It's a gorgeous thing, the feeling you bring. Freedom is finally mine.
All right, hey guys, a little marching band aesthetic for
I got
Tuesday.
the marching orders. I'm ready, sir. Yes, sir.
Love it. It's
Something
perfect.
a little more,
Reminded me of like
light.
Toy Soldiers. You heard Eminem's Toy Soldiers? It kind of had that.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I thought I'd mix it up a little bit from our underground hip hop vibe. Do something a little different, but
I
cool,
love
guys.
seeing these faces on one screen, man. It's like the entire country coming together for research. How you doing, Dan?
I'm
Been
good.
quiet. Busy?
It's a rare day. Well, yeah, like we don't have patience today, so I'm coming in later. Have to buy dry ice. I still haven't bought that machine, but that's next. It's in the
Not
cart.
yet.
It's in the cart.
It's a game changer.
Where is this
Game
at?
changer. The what?
Where you got to?
Oh.
Where is this? Where are you getting this machine?
Oh, so it's something we've been doing forever, but we live in the middle of a cornfield, and there's not a lot of access for dry ice. So we just rent the CO2 cylinders, this little manual box thing. It just now, one thing I did learn though is you got to make sure when you talk to like air gas or whatever, you get the cylinders. Make sure you get the cylinders that are meant for dry ice CO2 and not the incubator cylinders. There's a difference. There's like a heavier CO2.
One will make you blow up.
Yeah,
that's what I'm more afraid of is random explosion. Like, well,
I mean, we've been doing it in academia forever. And since we live around here, there's not a whole lot of dry ice access.
It's an important footnote. It's like those schedule of assessment little numbers, like triple J. Do not use this CO2, use the other one, or you might blow up.
Well, for us, it was we ordered CO2, went to go use the machine, and we didn't make a block at all. Like, what the heck's going on here? So we talked to the air gas people, and they're like, well, yeah, you got to get, oh, that's what you're trying to do. Yeah, you need this cylinder, a different kind of cylinder.
I'm on it, man.
Yeah,
that's next.
It's really complicated. I have like a homeland around the corner, so I'm lucky in that regard.
Yeah, you're set.
Well, we get snowbirds. We get snowbirds here, so in the wintertime, the population doubles. There's like 100,000 more people here, and they all have RVs, and they all buy all the dry ice when they go like on their little trip. So, yeah, we're kind of SOL when we need it, like almost every day. It's crazy. Yeah. I go to Food City like every day. I know the code better than the employees do. Like, oh, 58888.
That's good. That's a good problem to have, though, right? I mean, if you're having to go grab that much dry ice, that's good. How long will it store? I wonder. Like, if you just buy all of it.
Now, if you have a negative 20
You
freezer,
yeah.
it will last 24 hours if you put it in the styrofoam box.
Yeah.
If you don't, it will evaporate. So it's like 24 hour. But
Yeah.
our freezer,
And there, I mean, you can store it in a -80, but it better be well ventilated. Because
I would rather buy
last a long
fry ice. I'm interested in what fry ice could be. It sounds delicious. Oh,
well, I buy dry ice
Sorry
at
about that.
Fry's.
I mean, still fry ice. I mean, you just made something there, man. Let's think about what we can call fry ice.
Yeah, I like
fried
this
ice.
idea. I like this idea better. Well, Fox, you're just coming back from
Oh man,
SCRS. It's conference season. Every other post on LinkedIn is someone standing in front of a booth. It's cool. A lot of good ones. You know, obviously we can't all make them, but excited to see you were there. Tell us about it, man.
Well, so first and foremost, I'm an introvert. I am an introvert, and it takes a lot of energy to be at those places. SCRS is like the homecoming for research, and they treat it like that. It seems like you're at a carnival sometimes. There's awesome topics, but there's a lot of partying. A lot of, I did my PhD in hearing research, so I did animal models for hearing. I know what noise does to your ears. I could guarantee you that did not pass OSHA standards. But it was a party. It was a party. They came in a party. They left at a party. There's a lot of trade show stuff, and somewhere in between, there's a lot of good breakout sessions. All around, you see people talking, engaging, connecting, finding new ideas. It was good, but it was exhausted. I'm glad you didn't have this yesterday, Brad. I didn't have a voice yesterday.
Still recovering.
Yeah. So I decided if CRPN ever does swag, I'm going to make little CRPN packets of emergency, give it to everyone. I'm telling you.
Some hangover cure.
Yeah. Some stuff to really help you to stay healthy. So.
Yeah, that's what I feel like. I'd have a hard time because I mean, you're there and you want to party, right? And then I feel like your day's gonna get wasted sleeping in.
Yeah, well, and a lot of the magic happens at night. We all know the people at SCRS, which, by the way, I think it hit about 2,000 this year. 2,000 folks. We know the party animals are. There's some industry companies, industry organizations who make it a point to be the party to be at during SCRS. So that the evening hours every single night is planned. Everyone's got dinners. You got something.
Look, see, they brought some hangover kits. So
yeah,
got to get
it. I met Addison. Addison is awesome. What she has done for Todd, Todd over at Aspen, what she has done for him was if you notice, like Todd started coming up on LinkedIn a lot more in the past few months. That was Addison. Todd literally got an agent. Is pretty much what happened. So Addison, you're right. You probably need to bring a lot more of those.
It sounds like you were working even at the airport, dude.
Dude, everywhere.
What's up, Ted?
I flew into Chicago and I just turned over and said, "Welcome to O'Hare." Had a conversation with a director from GSK. I flew into Chicago. I had a huge layover. Ran into a business development person from a site network. I mean, it was just constant networking inside and outside of the conference.
And see, I mean, like you're built for, it sounds like you're more built for that. Like if I'm in an airport, I'm like, leave me alone. I don't want to talk to anybody. I'm like, so I can't bring myself to go that hard. So, it's good though. That's awesome.
Me too. Hoodie on, sunglasses.
Yeah, exactly. Earphone. I got my earbuds in.
Fox probably converted half the flight to CRPN.
I got a lot of conversions. We'll just say that is, but again, you got to put on your energy face, but then you've also got to recharge. I can't maintain that for long.
Yeah, I haven't gone out in a while, but even last week or whenever it was, week before that, I was all like, I'm going to go to bed early. I'm going to wake up early. I'm going to keep my same schedule. And then immediately went out to drink with people. And I was like, oh, that's out the window.
And the drinking, it's fun, but the drinking ruins your sleep quality, by the way.
Oh, yeah. No, it's
not just a hangover.
Bad news.
Yeah. Yeah. So highlights. I mean, I had like a list of 5. So there's a lot of things you could talk about here. Number one is, I think what made the entire conference, 2 things that come to mind immediately. Number one is, I don't know if you saw the Oliver Patch Project thing, but I mean, that was a giant tearjerker. Everyone loved it. So essentially what happened is a family had a child with a really nasty diagnosis who had to go through some pretty nasty things. So to support it, their community sent this child patches, kind of like Boy Scouts. Here's the patches you could focus on, like things you can collect and focus on and do. And this boy said, well, I wish that other kids could do this. So what happened was they created this nonprofit, and for like all the kids that are going through like cancer, chemotherapies, things like that, they give them these milestone patches every time they get through something, and they make it kind of, motivational for them to focus on, kind of like getting through boot camp, getting through the system. And they realized they didn't have a clinical research patch. So Sanofi sponsored a clinical research patch for this nonprofit. And boy, that was very inspirational. Coming from a nonprofit background, seeing how many kids they're helping, all the families are getting through it. That was probably my number one, absolutely best thing of the conference. Number 2 was obviously the Steve Wimmer post. I mean, that was just memorable. And I think it really brought together the community on how we all kind of play with each other. We have fun with it, but at the same time, we get the work done. So
I mean, for me, that was the best. That's the best conference post I've ever seen. The meatball.
When he broke that booth pitching?
No, he did
a swag bag one.
Pissed if that was my booth.
No, you didn't see the one he did where he went through like the contents of the swag bag, and it was like all made up stuff. Like one of them was like a meatball sub from Data Cubed Health, like in the bag. It was really funny. He did it really like straight too, so you weren't really sure what.
Yeah, it's serious. I mean, the Taylor Swift concert tickets were like, he did Taylor Swift concert from Pfizer, and he like quoted all these Taylor Swift songs in the letter from Pfizer. It was hilarious.
It was pretty good. I'm gonna guess he spent way too much time putting that all together, but it was well worth it.
I mean, that is JD. That's his job description, man.
That's true.
Very good job. He's a professional.
Yeah, so I saw him at the conference, and he was like, "Dude, like the Data Cube marketing people called my boss and said, what the hell?" And they thought it was there were actually meatball subs. They had to check to see whether or not they actually did that swag.
I actually got to see this now.
It was hilarious.
Yeah, I think I reposted it, so yeah, you should be able to find it. It's pretty damn funny.
I saw the one where he broke that pitching radar.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I saw that.
I would have been pissed if that's my booth, Steve.
There were a lot of good booths, a lot of good things. An interesting thing in the trade show dynamic is this huge explosion of the centralized clinical site support stuff. It's interesting how the majority of the like the booths, they were really going straight into the big networks that are taking on sites, I guess, trying to find more sites to buy. The services that are going for like the budget contract BD, anything a site might need, kind of a thing. A lot of pop-ups for that kind of a support.
Like sort of like SMOE type stuff, like basically centralizing. Yep. Like, yeah, I don't know. That's interesting.
Centralized admin. It's centralized admin, pretty much is what it is. It's the business development, sales, budgets, negotiations. There's a lot of companies out there growing to get, pretty much be consultants for sites so they don't have to grow it internally.
Yeah, but I mean, do you find like sites want to run their sites, right? I mean, I feel like for the most part, like maybe when you're starting out and getting your legs under you and having some support is nice, but like you don't want to offload all of that relationship building experience necessarily to a third party. Well, I feel like I've seen
generally what happens, and I've got a lot of these startup sites, and I've got sites throughout all the spectrums, but generally what will happen is you've got this nurse who was a coordinator for years who wants to go off on her own, has a PI who's a friend, and they try to go get the trials, and of course you run into a brick wall right there. You can't find a trial. So then they'll bring on someone to help them do a trial, right? An auto, right? One of them. And then once they get the trial, they're still scrappy, they're still lean, and they have to focus so much on performing the trial, they can't get the next pipeline, or they can't get the infrastructure behind it. Management, staffing, negotiations, budgets, grant management, all the business stuff on the background that you need to run the business isn't necessarily a priority until you've got a good pipeline, because you got to focus so much on doing the trial. And I think that's the target for a majority of these companies. Is they're trying
that's fair enough. It's a lot. I mean, we know it's a lot of balls to keep in the air. Yeah, that's a tough one. And yeah, see, I'm trying to drag Dan out to some conferences, but it sounds like he's holding everything. He's
SOS.
holding all in for
SOS,
SOS.
man.
I'm an SOS loyalist.
Yeah.
Purist.
Well,
That's where I'm at.
Maybe we can meet up at ACRP or something. They're pretty good.
You know what? I will make next year ACRP. I believe that's the acronym. They're in Anaheim.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to that one. That's my hood.
Yeah.
I gotta go. But otherwise, I'm in Anaheim every month, anyways. But yeah, I'm not gonna get on a flight to go. Look, we're not here to talk bad about other conference. I'll cool off, man. But there's like arbitrary awards given out, and like who knows? I mean, how do you even get an award? Like, what do you got to do? How do you know who's really the most patient-centric?
I assume money. I mean, generally, I don't know. Maybe I'm speaking out of turn here, but I doubt, and this is just conference agnostic, but I'm doubting there are a lot of winners who don't happen to also be sponsors for a particular event. And that, maybe it's coincidence. Maybe they're also the greatest companies on earth, but they also happen to give money to the event,
But it's cool. I mean, I'm knocking it halfway jealous, because it's like a great business model.
No, I mean, it looks, obviously you look at it, you see the pictures, they have a lot of money to throw around.
Yeah.
And make cool stuff, make it a good experience. So, apparently members vote via email. So,
yeah, they do. They do. And they're stratifying more. They had a much more stratified voting structure this year. And I do have to admit that at least one of the award winners aligned with my PAC scores. I do agree with the choice.
But let's break it down, like maybe to its like least common denominator. Why do you take SOS out of it? All right, like, because a lot of the reason why we're going this year more than usual is because we're trying to get interest for SOS as well. Sponsorship, right? Just a few days left. We're still selling tickets, by the way. But let's say, like, just as a side owner, right? Like, why do you actually go? Like, what's the top 3 reasons?
Yep. And I think we hit on this before, but it was very prominent. This is straight up the trade show. This is get that BD up. This is get the pipeline in. That was the number one thing. And I think number 2 was partying, and number 3 is content. I think that's your priorities. When you go to
BD
SOS,
is what though? Like getting studies, right?
Yeah. So getting studies or finding solutions that could help you save money or make money. So, and it was amazing how many, and you knew who the investors were. Someone said, if you want to look for the investors, look for the suits and ties at this conference, because everyone else knows better. So there were a lot of side conversations from investors. They hit up this conference, and you could tell who they're talking to and what's going on. Sites are really in the whole private equity selling mode right now.
Yeah.
So then there's a lot of
every year there's a different reason then. Whatever.
Yeah. There could be. I mean, again, I went to the 2, and I'm the same way. Like, my gut instinct is like, I don't really want to go to this stuff. I just don't know. I don't feel like I'm going to get value out of it. But I was surprised by the fact that, even going and just talking to people in person, I felt like it was nice. I enjoyed it.
Yeah.
Now,
but there's always value. There is.
But, now, I didn't walk away with 10 study opportunities. I didn't walk away with really a lot of tangible things to bring back per se. But, I still think mean, there was some value, but it's maybe a little more on the intangible side.
Right.
I
Like if
don't
you were
think
to call, like, let's say 10 people a day for, how many days is a conference? Like 3 days plus the travel. So, like, let's say 4. If you were to call, like, hey, every hour I'm going to have a Zoom meeting with someone from LinkedIn that I've really been wanting to network with, you can arguably say you get the same ROI without leaving your house.
so.
I mean,
Dan, that was weird for me. It is I met two kinds of people at this conference. It was either who the hell are you, or oh my gosh, I follow you on LinkedIn. I love everything you see. I love everything you say. Thank you for what you do. It was that kind of a spectrum. There was no in
dichotomy.
between. So what you were saying is if you're on someone's phone and you're in front of their eyes every single day, when you go to this conference, you have much more of an interaction.
Okay.
The other thing I notice is like,
Do you think we missed the good old days of the true
gosh,
partying,
yeah, back before that's back
Yeah, I
before
didn't
Stark
see the.
anti-kickback and
Well, when
was
investigator meetings used to be in Brazil, in Rome.
wow.
Like, yeah. I saw, we had one in the Czech Republic and Puerto Rico, and
I'm going to Dallas in 2 weeks.
Nice.
you come up and see me. You're only a couple hours away.
Yeah. Hilton.
That's what I
and
do.
that's
Is
all-
I'll fly to DFW and then come down and see you, Brad.
Yeah, I'm just quick drive to Dallas.
So topics were interesting this year. The evolution of topics are changing. This was probably one of my favorite agendas because finance was heads up. One of them, I mean, it was diversity and finance. Those were two of the biggest parts of this conference. DCT kind of went down a little bit. There was still some stuff there, but wasn't. I mean, a couple of years ago, it was like DCT, you're gone. DCT, or you're out. Now it's like, okay, DCT's kind of fallen in line, but the new metrics, because they always do metrics every year, but the new metrics, some very interesting ones that you could cite one is 20% of all of the sites who took part in the survey, 20% of sites are remittance to remittance. So 20% of these sites were remittance. They have nothing in the bank. They're like running on fumes.
But that includes the startups too, or just like all?
Yeah, it's whatever sites participate.
You would assume most sites in SCRS are not startups, which is scary. Most sites part of that network would.
These guys are pretty experienced.
Yeah,
and that actually they made that point. They said, keep in mind these are experienced sites. Odds are the numbers are probably far worse. The other one that really hit me was we're now at 70% of sites with less than 6 months on hand for cash flow.
Wow.
70%.
70% with less than 6 months. And then for anyone who also remembers this, and please correct me if I'm wrong, it's been a couple long days, but there was also a pretty good metric on the number of days of AR. And I think it was averaging like 80 to 90 in AR, which, as David Volcano had said, he works in healthcare. 60 is like emergency critical. We shut down the hospital. And we're in the 80s and the 90s. And that matches. We're still floating around 112 days on a net 30. I
wonder what's longer, more days, accounts receivable or open queries. It's probably 1-to-1 ratio.
Yeah.
It should be.
Oh.
That'd be fair.
We'll sit on these queries.
So topics were good. Judy Galindo, shout out to Judy Galindo.
Judy's a beast. Someone was texting me. David LaHaye was texting me. Hey, shout out to Judy. Look at her.
She took the stage, man.
Yeah.
What she's doing right now at Sun Valley and what she's doing for diversity and what she's doing to take a stand for this. We need more people like that to stand up for diversity.
I saw that. I was proud of Judy. LICR. Shout out Latinos in Clinical Research.
Judy was there. We had a few other of our Latinos in Clinical Research group there. Shout out to Lucia Rodriguez. Also, Evolve Clinical Research. What she's doing in her community is just. That was my favorite part of the conference. Is I actually get to see the heroes that I admire.
I'll say I think that would be the biggest appeal for me, is just to see and talk to all the people that because it's a small community. It's like big and small at the same time, right? I feel like most of us have at least. I've heard of them or know of them or some affiliation with them in some way or another, but maybe haven't had the opportunity to talk to or otherwise catch up with. Like to me, that would be one of the bigger appeals of going to a bigger conference like that, which again is not really a particularly tangible. I want to spend $2,500 to do that or more or whatever the case is, but nonetheless, I think there's some appeal there.
Yeah. That's
Yeah,
good.
I think
Good point. That's why I'll go to ACRP. When it's close by, I'll go. All these Florida people saying, "Hey Dan, why don't you go SCR?" Well, it's in Florida every freaking year, guys. Like it's easy for you to go. Put one in Anaheim every year, I'll go too. Put
yeah,
one in Yuma, I'll go.
They ain't coming to Oklahoma, so
Nah, there's no
kind of screwed.
conference anywhere near you, huh?
Dallas, I can go to Dallas. It's only a
Okay.
couple hours. I think
Yeah,
ACRP
Dallas.
was in Dallas not that long ago, and I just happened to have
All right.
something else going on. But
But no, overall, I mean, there's this huge explosion of conferences now over the next 10 weeks. Over the next 6 weeks, I think there's like 10 conferences going on. So there's
Well,
no way
Well,
you can
SOS,
possibly.
we've been selling tickets.
we're part of the
Oh,
problem.
I could tell you, Dan. I don't know if you look at the count me in, I'm in, and a lot of people knew about SOS, and they said they do plan on coming. We got some other sponsors that may be coming in too. We'll see.
Yeah, I got
how
one.
that
too. I got to
converts.
introduce you to actually.
It's for me, it was exciting. It was good to see the team, good to see the industry. It's just kind of like a good recharging, like you kind of reconnect with the people in the industry there. But I mean, admittedly, it is a pretty big party at sometimes.
Well, that's the good part. I think that's the intangible that's like worth the money. Maybe is the.
Ted must have some of the SCRS metrics here, but yeah, they were. Let's just say they got worse.
55% of sites lost money.
Yep.
That's insane.
That was another big one. Is they did have. No, we're looking at the great correction, and we knew this was happening. I see it in the contract. Sponsors are trying to rein it in. Costs have not gone down. So as a result, sites are losing money. There's this really, really big correction that's going across the industry.
I wonder if there's any more like stratification to those. Like, what are the site types that are losing money? I expect there's a fair amount of like academic sites that lose money but don't even really care about it because they're they're not even meant. They're not meant to be like standalone businesses. They're just subsidized by departments or provosts. Yeah, right.
Yep. Yeah. Good job, Dan.
That's a book everyone should read. I mean, yeah, like Brad said, there's nuances to this stuff we can't even see. The point is, anecdotally, I've been doing this since 2005. I don't know the exact numbers. I remember reading Center Watch articles saying similar things back then. 80% of sites. So all this site-centric tools, and the number is not improving.
So, and I will say, I sat down with one of my site partners, really, really prominent in the industry, really experienced. And he's like, I don't know what the heck they're talking about here. He goes, here's my numbers. We're doing great. I mean, we're doing fine. But the thing is, this individual is very good at negotiating. It's negotiating and managing the contract. A lot of people love the whole thrill of the negotiation, and they just kind of throw the contract on the wayside. But he does it really, really well.
Even then, though, like negotiate a great budget, that's great. You got to enroll patients, or who gives a shit?
Because you got to actually do what
that
you're
number. Yeah, that number doesn't really like amount to much if you enroll one patient. You're like, cool, good thing we spent 6 weeks negotiating, so I made that extra $1,000 on this patient. It's a balance for sure. I mean, obviously there's a lot to there's a lot to negotiate, and we should negotiate aggressively. But at the end of the day, it comes down to execution.
Do you know what's like those stats Ted put up, which are basically more or less unchanged for 2 decades, at least that I've been doing this? It's misleading because you would think, okay, well, the same sites are in the same verticals every year. It's not the case. Like there's a lot of upward mobility in this industry as sites. PEs in this, or VC is looking into sites. Like they're even buying sites that are not profitable. So it's misleading because you can be losing money as a site and be in an attractive market for VC, and you have a nice exit just off of your potential. Or you could be 1 year losing money and the next year make a killing to pay for the last 3 years of losses and more. So
that I could see, because you can have, I
Mhm.
mean, 1 year can basically like set you up for the next 3 to 5 if it's
Yeah.
Yep.
that good,
Yep.
you know. So that's not,
Yep.
that is weird, because it's not like we're not selling like a product where like you can have any control over creating a linear, sustainable upward mobility, because you're kind of, you know, we're sort of at the uh you know, at the market's discretion, you know, because if there aren't any trials in this area and you're only in this area, what are you supposed to do?
Well, and just like what you were both saying, you absolutely have to normalize your portfolio. You're going to have feast and famine. It's going to happen.
yeah.
And you just have to have more of a long-term upward mobility.
Yeah, I also think, you know, I've talked about this with some people lately, but like this is what have I heard, like diversification is for like people who don't know what they're doing. Like if you can go hard on the stuff that's working, like go hard on it. Why diversify into things that you don't know or that may not
I'm
work?
glad you said that.
And instead, like double down on what's actually working. And I'm starting to think that that's for better or worse, a better strategy. You know, at least to some degree. You know, we'll see long term. Obviously, we may be pissing off some sponsors by ignoring them. But if you've got a study that's easy to enroll and pays well, I mean, I'd rather commit double the resources to that than to try to, you know, salvage these terrible studies. You know.
So you've got, and by the way, Brad, I saw your buddy Nelson. We actually got to sit down and talk to him.
Nice. Yeah. See, he's a guy
Nelson.
I'd love to sit down with. It's yeah.
Yeah, Nelson's got some cool things going on too, but Nelson is really good at laser focusing on one thing, specializing, being really good at that one thing. Get one trial, knock it out of the park, specialize on that trial. Don't grab like 50 trials and do a little bit on each. No, get
Right.
that one trial and knock it out of the park. And then you've got like the generalist, where you know, get a good portfolio. Not all trials are created equal. You're going to have your filler studies, and you're going to have your 2-year and even extended studies. So it's just a matter of how you want to build your business around it. And I don't think that there's going to be one that's better or worse than the other. It's just going to be a matter of your preference, your situation, what you're in, like your resources. I think that it's going to have to be a really good personal decision for every site owner.
Yeah, and I don't know what Nelson's doing. I'm not. I mean, I do to some degree, but he must be smarter than me, because you know that would be my ideal. Obviously, it's like only pick the studies that are going to kick ass. But like, how often do we really know that until you've got 6 studies in the door and you're like, okay, well, 5 of them are terrible, or you know, mediocre at best, let's say, and then you know the one is going to be the one that does 80% of your revenue.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and again, I feel like I see that over and over again.
Yep.
And maybe I just need to get better at picking, but I feel like you don't know until you know, which is challenging.
You've got Todd. By the way, shout out to Todd and his team. They were one of those award winners that we were talking about.
Yeah, I saw. I think maybe it was Scope last year. I think I watched their presentation and I was like, they should have won and didn't. So I'm actually glad to see that they won, because I feel like they have a truly like full service, thought of all the pieces and put it together in a way that is like sustainable and makes sense to me anyway. So yeah, props to you guys. I didn't know that they had won out there, so that's good.
And Todd, I'm not sure if pharma's lawyers would allow them to give too much information on their pipeline for obvious, you know, patent reasons. It's pretty competitive out there right now. A lot of our sponsors are heading up against each other. I'm not surprised they didn't keep that close to their chest, but it'd be nice to get some kind of a heads up, like, you know, hey, you might want to be, you know, relocating your resources toward this or that, or developing it so that you can help us.
Well, that might be like why these conferences are worth going to. If you can get the right sponsor, you know, boozed up on the right cocktail, they'll tell you, like DIA, you know, Bio. I don't know if they're at SCRS, probably at SCRS, but yeah, hey, Dan, you should look into obesity studies over the next few years. That'd be a good hint. Although I don't think I need that hint. We kind of know that, but something else, you know.
Yeah,
I think that's tough to do with, especially if you may get that from like an MSL, but that's going to be, again, you've got to manage very. I mean, the MSL level roles I feel like now are so ridiculously specific. Like you've got to even have like 5 within the same company and talk to all of them just to keep up, and that's just one company. And then obviously you want to work with 10 if you can, so you got to like deal with 50 people coming in and showing you slides, which they love to do for whatever reason. I can't prescribe, guys, so please stop telling me about the drug. I mean, it's fine. I know that's your job. But you may get that from that relationship, but it's tough to manage.
I found that odds of getting anything from like a sponsor rep at conferences like this are very limited. Thing is, they're bombarded with everyone. It's like, you know, throwing a fish in a shark pool. These sponsor reps are they're pretty bombarded with a lot of things. So last year I talked to every single one of them. 0 responded to me. Nothing came of it. And
I mean, it's not so crazy though. Like the stats, and again, I don't know them perfectly, but like so few physicians participate. Nothing enrolls fast enough, and like sites are like begging for information and for studies, and they have patient populations and they want to grow into new practices with new physicians, and then it's like, why do you make it so difficult? Like it feels like we're just shooting ourselves in the foot. Like we're not actually helping solve the problem. We can't engage with anyone, you know. I'm afraid I'm about to miss out on a study because of a lack of experience, one of our PIs.
Really?
And I'm like, we have a huge population. We've got coordinators with a ton of experience in the therapeutic area. And we're here in a part of a big system. We have everything you could want, except
or a small.
No, it's a fairly small sponsor.
Have you tried hitting up the key stakeholder on LinkedIn? That usually works for me.
Yeah, I might do that. And this is from the CRO, who I think they're basically saying like, we're afraid to put this.
Yeah, but the sponsor, if they like you, man, they'll be like, they'll put
That's
you
true.
on.
That's true. That's a good idea.
It's worth LinkedIn Premium just for that, like a few times a year to do that.
Zymewire, I think I can get in that way maybe as well.
Yeah.
So good, bad, pros, cons, overall net ROI, definitely. What I found is a lot of the ones that and this is where, if this was your first SCRS, if you go and nothing happens, something happened, it just didn't convert yet. Go again. Because no, seriously, like most of the people that worked with me, like I sat with them at last year's gala, or I talked to them last year and they, oh yeah, who are you? But then, hey, you kind of get to pick up on that relationship again. Then all of a sudden it turns into something. So it's a lot of persistence. If you're going to do this, join the community and be part of the community. And then eventually you're going to see the throughput.
Well,
shout out Abby.
Oh gosh. Now, Abby, it wasn't Aspen. I'll say that. It was, well, Viva. I like Viva's focus on nonprofits every single day. For me, it's okay. So a backstory. I learned about Barry Lake through your podcast, Brad. And I've been trying to shake Barry Lake's hand for 2 years now. And dude, he like evades me. I don't know what the deal is. But the Devana Goddess and the cool green screen and what Devana did, you know, you can target stuff. It's pretty cool. Like they did like a virtual reality competition where but I think that that was probably one of the most over the top. Oh my gosh, look at what they're doing. I mean, of course, you know, we have broken basketballs and a lot of things like that. Everyone loves the steady kick bag, but Devana made a big impression on me with like the direction that they took.
Fair enough. That's good. I mean, what do you avoid in a booth? I feel like I just avoid booths in general when I go to these things, unless I know someone. I always feel like it's such an awkward, like, hi, can I look at your thing? What is your thing? You know, I don't know.
Honestly, I avoid QR codes because, you know, win this, scan this, and register for this, and then for the next year get a bunch of junk email. No, not interested.
Yeah, register is like a bad word at a conference.
Yeah. Sign on, register, give us a bunch of free content so you might get a TV. Not a big fan. Don't like that. And I love the conversation. That was the other one. So the rise of site CTMSs. It's coming. Like all these big site networks, they launched their own CTMS software and now they're trying to take it to the industry for everyone. I mean, there are pop-up CTMSs everywhere.
Is that VCs trying to get ROI by after they bought
Jeez.
sites? They're like, hey, let's sell this.
Yeah, a lot of them are, this worked for us for 10 years, so we're going to ramp it up and send it across. So you're going to see this generation 2.0 of CTMS software. I couldn't believe how many site networks are doing this right now. So now the big one was there was if you've ever heard of an organization Verily, which Brad, I think you talked to them in Socra.
Yeah, basically Google folks.
Yep, it's the Google version of a CTMS. They got some cool things going on. I really like their OCR technology. They're taking a schedule of assessments and converting it into electronic format so you can analyze it like that, which cool. As long as they build in footnotes. I forgot to ask them that, but
yeah, I'm trying to get them on to, because I was curious. I've been curious about them for a long time because they were Signal Path, maybe.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Which I had also never seen, but like growing up, I was always like, I liked Google stuff. I have, a Google Pixel. So I was like, I would like to check out their CTMS sometime.
What do you mean they're Google people? Like
Google owns Verily.
Yeah.
Oh,
so
Google owns Verily.
So it's a Google, it's pretty much a Google powered CTMS platform.
I see.
So they got, and that's the weird thing is you've got the big guys coming in on CTMS and little guys. So I think you're going to see in the next couple of years, the CTMS market is going to absolutely explode with options. So
get commoditized.
And I wonder if it's good. I mean, more competition. Everything is glitchy. Even the ones I love do have their, let's say, peculiarities that I'm like, man, I wish it didn't do this, or I wish this was easier to do. So like, no one's got it quite right yet. I think.
Well, and Todd, I should show you the business cards. People must have, they know that we talked. They're like, here's my business card. Do you want to be on my board of advisors? I'd love to get a site's perspective on this and that. And it's like, I could make a living off of being an advisor for these tech companies for site perspective. It's you got to be, everyone wants it.
It's good. I like that idea. Except then you're too busy on boards that you're not working at the site anymore.
Yeah, I mean, you lose the site perspective. You're too busy talking about being an advocate. So it's like, right. You can only do so much.
Well, technology is a deflationary force, so more competition is good. It would mean ultimately cheaper or free products for sites. And then the question is, what sites use it still? Like, I mean, these coordinators are busy. Here's like another thing to use. Okay, thanks.
Yeah.
I mean, I really look forward to like more stupid software, like in a good way, like stuff that's just easy and stupid and anyone can use it without a lot of extra stuff. Because, even again, and I mean, Fox can probably know better than anyone else, but like if you want to track down and keep track of your payments, like that's like incredibly complex to build into your CTMS to make sure you capture every single invoiceable, communicating that like across your team so that when these things happen. Like it's still hard, even the good tools that are out there.
There are very few options to capture non-patient facing invoiceables, even now. And it's unfortunate. It's like 33% of your revenue comes from that, and you have to rig it. You have to figure out other ways to do it. And it's not necessarily CTMS's fault. I mean, you've got all these other, the portals, all the sponsor portals that you have to go through, all these other things. And so you have to create these really weird rigged systems to try to survive in a technology chaotic ocean. So it's just, seeing that streamline is going to be like some act of a unicorn. We'll see. If that ever happens.
Someone will figure it out, or at least make it a little more, little more efficient.
But when it gets more commoditized, I mean, will sites be more profitable just because they can track better? I don't know. Remains to be seen.
Yeah. Because, you're going to see what happens is when they can track it better, the budgets are going to be reduced because it's more efficient. I think that's what, like you said, what did you say? Technology, the ultimate deflator.
It's a deflationary force. Yeah.
So it's a deflationary force. So they're going to, you better bet they're going to take advantage of that deflationary force. If we can make things more efficient, the budgets are going to go down. I mean, that's the whole theory. So
Well,
more profit depends on how efficient you are.
so the bigger sites won't want this. They'll say, no, we're good with our own. Everyone else can struggle, and we'll just
What-
make our own.
Doesn't that sound like a CRO, Dan?
I mean,
Doesn't that sound, you don't want to deflate, or
and I don't know. I don't know if you heard any. Like, maybe I'm completely off base, but I talked to a vendor, and they were talking about a couple of the bigger site networks they work with are still like committed to paper source and like don't want to make the switch
Yep.
to e-source.
Yep.
You
Yep.
know,
So
and I found that really interesting.
you know how we're always bashing CROs about billable hours and how they get paid by the hour, and it's happening at the site level too.
Right. Yeah,
So
with the consolidation and
Yep.
because ultimately that's like that going back to that stat that Ted put up. I mean, that top 10, 20%, it's always changing because of M&A, but they're okay with it. They're okay with the secrecy and oftentimes these are some of the people that complain that we share so much. And I've had people tell me, why are you giving the sites the blueprint or people the blueprint how to start sites? I don't need more competitors. And I tell them, if it's not me, it's someone else. So figure out how to stay relevant.
So one little nugget of knowledge that I absolutely loved, and I've seen this before, is everyone fights about archiving and doc storage, right? Everyone. How much you getting for archiving and doc storage? Normally, you can land at a few thousand here and there if you're lucky. There are sites out there right now who get $10,000 for archiving
because it's paper. Can you get that fee if you're using Creo?
So, well, that's another thing we can talk about. But those letters never work. Those letters of justification never work. But for anyone out there who's getting $500 for archiving max, there are sites out there getting $10,000 for archiving.
Wow.
And our stream just got sniped, and we've been turned off air for you telling people
Sorry.
that. No, I'm just
Sorry, but I mean, that was one of my favorites.
No, that's interesting to know.
I knew sites. I knew that it happens, but it's always contention. Archiving is always contention. And now you're going up to 20, 25 years now for requirements. Be real careful. $500 isn't going to cut it for 25
So
years.
maybe the price is not the physical storage. It's the act of responsibility and being a custodian of the data.
So one of the first things that triggers an increase in overhead for my budgets is the requirement to contact the sponsor before destruction. If you expect me to make a commitment in 20 years to do this, your price just went up. Because who
actually does that though? Like who? I mean, I know PIs that keep their stuff in their garage. They pass away. What happens? Like, who's responsible?
Well, I mean, it's not the PI. It's always the person signing the contract. It's the site, the institution that makes that promise.
The site owner sells and moves on. PI's dead.
Yep. There's always an assignment clause in your contract. Whoever assumes you, the only thing is if you shut down, sites shut down, I don't know what's going to happen, but I mean, people follow up on it. I had to do a really big doc storage purge at one of my last sites.
But at the end of the day, it's a sponsor, and sponsors are not known for being litigious against sites. Like that would just be a bad look for them.
Yep.
So all they can do is just be annoying and keep asking. But if no one's responding, they just move on.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And a lot of times we couldn't find sponsors. We went through due diligence, went through certified mail, gave them 60 days notice. Hey, this is happening. We did everything we're supposed to. And, some of them, they're out of business. They don't care. But then isn't that something? They don't care. And yet they put these things on sites to store these things indefinitely where nobody cares. That's a whole other podcast. But anyway, $10,000 for doc storage.
I wonder, what do you mean by that, Dina? Like,
I'm back and forth on that, Dina.
What do you mean by, what does that mean? Like they ship it to them and they hang on to it, or?
Yeah. And that breaks every independent contractor strain in my body. There's a reason why they built that structure in place. And there's a lot of ownership of records, ownership of documents.
Why don't we just let them collect the data too? I mean,
Yeah, I mean, well, and that
And
exactly.
they can train the
So
patients. They could buy the dry ice. That would be good.
right.
yeah, so what's going to happen if the FDA comes and audits a site and has to go to the sponsor of the drug they're trying to get approved? That doesn't feel right.
Yeah, that would be ship it to them at the end of the study. Still, then, yeah, if FDA shows up, then you're reliant on
On the
someone
sponsor to
else
take care
outside
of
your
that.
control.
Yeah.
Which, like you said, you can't even track down these people, dude. After a study is over, you might as well be dead to them. Because I've never been able to track down somebody after the fact when I've needed to. So that seems like it would be challenging.
Yeah.
IQVIA spends 100 mil. Well, I mean, they make what, billions. So I'm not going to be too sympathetic that they're spending 100 mil a year on archiving.
Yeah. I mean, the Iron Mountains of the world absolutely love clinical research.
Oh, I'm sure they do.
I used to pay a nice fee to Iron Mountain, but Creo now. I like it. Actually, just yesterday I logged into an archive trial in Creo and found what I needed, and that's that.
Logged right out.
Yep.
So
Yeah,
then
then
what?
we got-
The AWSs of the world are going to love clinical research. So there's always.
But I think to your point, it's going to give them an excuse to pay you less for it.
Many sponsors, they don't like the justification for archiving electronically. They think that they can pay you less, but then you show them the storage that it costs for AWS rental servers.
Well, not only
And
that,
it's
it's having someone, a knowledge worker, be a custodian of this every year. What's their salary?
Yep.
$80K a year. I'm giving you a discount at 10 grand.
Yep. Having to manage, I mean, this could be another podcast if you ever want to talk about archiving. This is something, but point is, you'd be surprised at the disparities in prices between sites. A lot of sites who went to this conference came out saying, I had no idea I could invoice for that. I had no idea other sites were getting this. It was literally an eye-opener for a lot of sites to say, well, this is what's happening. And that's not price fixing. That's transparency. It's like
that was number 3 on the list then of so biz dev, then the parties, and then the content, like learning something.
Yeah. I think that was.
I mean, I like that. I mean, that's where I think there's value in just that kind of stuff. Like, we're so often separated from each other. So to be able to talk through that kind of thing, to know like, oh crap, you're getting this, like, okay, I can learn. And that makes everybody, I mean, doesn't that raise the fair market value for everyone now if we're all slowly, learning and getting higher costs for some of these things?
There's always new sites that just take whatever's given to them, and so those numbers move. That 80%. Okay, well, it's not always the same sites. Like there's just new sites come in and take their place. And
I don't know if you saw the post on budget sniping, but it's happening right now, especially for some sites that are dependent on seasons, like the vaccine studies, where you've only got a short amount of time. If someone gets their flu shot, they can't be in your vaccine study. So you've got like 2 strong months, if that, to get enrollment. CRO brings you the budget like the week of, says get this signed. Then if you even try to negotiate that, you're out the whole season.
Right.
So it's there's a lot of time pressures on that.
Look at Abby setting us up.
Abby, shout out.
Go Abby.
Abby got the layup, like the alley to the oop. Fox can dunk it.
Yep. Fox. Content.
I was going to say that was exactly what I would have said. Is probably content.
And not just content. So I had a realization. The agenda was very reactive, very helpful, very reactive. This is how you survive in this environment now. This is what you can do right now. There's limited discussion on being proactive. Here's the problem. Here's how we can fix it. Let's take these steps to prevent it from happening. That didn't happen. So I would say content, but specifically content for progression, not necessarily survival. I would imagine Dan Safari is going to throw a party. He's going to do something. We'll have a party.
We're going to do something. I
think the networking is going to be fun too. I mean, just the meeting people and talking. And again, like even the people we talk to that comment on these live streams, I mean, that we know are coming and we can talk to. But I'm with you. I mean, as soon as I saw that question, I just thought content. Yep. So it was actually
that's what 100%. Now we've got sponsors. And now, granted, for all of you sponsors out there, this is the first year conference. There are sponsors who will not. It's against their corporate policy to sponsor a first year conference. And I think we're over 200 or something, which means
we're almost at 300 now.
Yeah, we're gonna have like 7 to 10 sponsors at this conference and like 200 people looking at their booths. So it's like you're gonna line at the booths with all these sponsors. So that's what we were talking about is these sponsors are gonna be like swarmed.
But
also Snoop Dogg will be performing, and
right.
There you go.
lobster dinner for everyone.
That's right. Yeah. That's right. The best wine curated by Brad Hightower.
Yeah.
You do not want me doing that.
Yeah. And I will not tap dance. Won't do it.
How about practical things you can start doing tomorrow at your site? Like not just talking about an idea. Oh, diversity. Okay. That's great. How? Well, Spanish content. How about a Spanish YouTube video here and there? Invest in a videographer. Here's how to find videographers. Here's how to create a podcast RSS feed, like step by step. I mean, who's doing this stuff unless it's behind a paywall or something?
Yeah, I think creative content is going to be what's going to put us in the whole conference industry.
And to Dan's point, I think Dan's been doing this for 10 years or more, but it's like sort of like open sourcing how to run a site, like that's how I view it. And why shouldn't we? And the concept of like, oh, this is competition. Again, look at the numbers. Like 2 or 3% of physicians participate in clinical trials. Really? Do you think there's not enough for hundreds or not maybe even thousands of us to break in and do this successfully? I mean,
well, there's so not enough room. If you talk to people in Miami, they don't another doctor.
That's a different.
That's
story.
The one. So I don't know if you guys remember Jade, but big shout out to Jade. She took me to an authentic Cuban cafe for this cool Cuban espresso.
Their coffee is insane, man.
Dude,
you get a stroke off of
no
that.
wonder I couldn't sleep that night. That was nuts. I was a networking beast, and I'll thank Jade and the espresso.
Coffee's on another level. You get some tachycardia after that.
Yeah, it was pretty crazy.
Yeah, I know. I like this. I think I'm with Todd here. And I don't know, the last part of here, preferring professional sites replace all part-time sites that agree to anything. I mean, honestly, what I would rather see is we help these part-time sites become professional sites rather than, outright replace them per se. Like, I think we can help bolster them so that they can become professional because I don't know. I mean, I think you guys, I started out, I guess, as what you would call a part-time site. I mean, I wasn't doing it part-time, but being in the same position of like, look, okay, I got to take what's coming and, figure this out. So I don't think it's about replacing them so much as like, let's give them the resources to become, because a lot of them are doing it for the right reasons, I think.
Yep. That was another big topic that I heard a lot of sites talk about is it's not right that this site who doesn't know what they're doing is screwing over my budget. Because if they accept a low budget, they call it fair market value and underfund me. So it's kind of like, it's literally one of those, if we all talk to each other, we can still be competitive, but let's at least try to make it so that we can all survive. So that you have a lot of that site crosstalk happening right now. And there was a lot of
ironically, that's a lot of the reason why I got off on a bad foot with SCRS back when I joined, when I started this was almost 6 years ago. I got in their forums and I was like, hey, let's talk budgets. And they're like, you can't do that. This is a direct violation of your confidentiality agreements. We can't condone it. You're kicked out of the forum. And I was like, what?
Pipe down, Hightower.
Well, they were also like trying to accuse me of being some like elaborate site network when I'm like, dude, I have like one study at one site. Like I want to be a site network, but I'm not here to like.
But why are they
compete with you guys?
Why are they gatekeeping like that? Like, what's the reason behind that?
Maybe they
I assume they have to protect themselves because what if one of their sponsors sees us, talking about their budgets in their forum, right? You think Merck is going to be happy?
Like, if you actually put something specific on there,
that was never my intention anyway. But I just found it was like a weird. I felt like it was like the opposite of what I expected, which I expected like transparency and everyone wanting to like help each other. And then
Yeah.
instead I was like almost attacked. Like that's a little strong of a word, but like, and I was literally banned from the forum. So I was like, okay, well, just
Are
like
you
give me my money
blacklisted
back.
from
I don't know.
SCRS still? Can you go to the conference? Or are you blacklisted?
I'm sure I could. And they're,
Ah.
again, the work they do is good. I've had my axe, to grind over the years, but I don't really have anything bad to say about them. And it was just probably a lot of misunderstanding. But nonetheless, when I was like, this is supposed to be like the preeminent site representative, and then to go in and be like, you can't talk about that. I'm like, what? Like,
Well,
that's
they
insane
still
to me.
are until we surpass them. I mean, there's always like competition we talk about amongst sites. There are also
Though I think it'll be
conferences.
complementary, or maybe supplementary is a good word. Look, I don't know, and look, I don't know about you guys. We're early. This is our first foray. Like, I can already see like things I would love to do completely differently, and people probably prefer both or either. You know what I mean? Like some people want to go party and stand in front of a lit up sign, and like that's fine, that's good, and not that there won't be some of that, but like I want to like get in the weeds, like like SCRS saying, like let's talk about
Yep.
the steps
Yep.
and all the tiny steps that it takes to get there, and that's where I'd like to see the focus be. But you can have both, and there's room for both probably.
Well, and for me, it's a totally different audience. It's the people who, it's an affordable conference. The people who can't afford to spend $6,000 in a Florida resort
Were there
to have a
coordinators
party.
at SCRS?
There were a lot of site directors brought like their senior coordinator.
Okay.
So we did have some coordinators. But I mean, again, this is leadership. It's like, it's where you're taking your experienced, like advanced personnel to there. And that is where all of the breakout sessions are happening. This is what sites perceive. This is what sites need according to our experience. And, I don't think as many people have considered a patient in 10 years as, there are more of those people than the people who are on the ground right now experiencing the industry right now. And I think that's where I want to, like you said, Brad, maybe do a supplement to what they're doing. And they have some cool metrics. They're collecting things, but I also like your book, Dan. I would love to sit down and talk to the people who saw a patient before they got on the airplane.
Yeah.
Or, like those people, the ones that are doing the work.
Consider that the difference is we're not, I mean, and again, this is nothing, like we're not trying to make a living throwing conferences, right? We all have sites that we run. And this is like, I think we came into this with the idea of like, how can we help and give back and provide something that's of value to sites in a space where we feel like there hasn't been that value brought before.
Yeah.
And that's where I think it's, it's not necessarily competitive per se, but we'll see what happens over the next few years. And I just hope we don't lose that.
I talked to the team,
vision.
and I'm pretty sure we've got a couple of SCRS folks coming to SOS. I kind of got a confirmation they're pretty busy. I mean, and again, big kudos to that team, man. They do put on a show. They produce a really a good and entertaining conference.
And we had some SOS people at SCRS too.
Yeah.
We're good.
I mean, the industry's small. There's going to be crosstalk.
Yeah.
And like you said, Brad, it's an industry. This isn't like a little it's an ecosystem, and we're going to have diversification.
But like Brad said, not to lose that vision, currently every single owner of SOS is a side owner, with the exception of Ashley Marco. At SCRS, I'm sure they have a board of directors and they're all fancy. I don't know who owns them now. But probably early on, they started out similarly. Christine Pierre was a site owner.
Yep.
I don't know anymore if there's any site owners even involved in like leadership decisions.
Yeah, I know they're owned by Signet. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, which is fine. I mean, I wish they would be more like forthcoming about that. Not that it matters, but yeah, no, I'm
not that it matters, but it matters. And that's why we started.
It does.
That's why we started ours, because get back to like the core of what we're actually do, like a conference owned by site owners.
There's Nelson.
Nelson, look at the looking emoji.
Yeah, where you been, Nelson?
CNS research, amazing stuff.
Man,
Yeah, we need to get him
So-
on here. Tell us his secrets.
Yeah, Nelson's got. I mean, we can talk a lot, Nelson. We should talk about what you want to talk about.
Mm-hmm.
So, but yeah, overall, if we had to wrap this up, I know we're on time. Actually, I think I'm late for a meeting. I have another meeting with the site. Good conference. Good. I was tired. I had to sleep a lot, but I'm thankful I went. It did have a good connecting ROI with the community, and I would, if you'd have it, maybe if you want to go to like one every other year, even just to kind of keep your ear to the ground on what they're doing, I think it's worth it.
Respect.
So,
They do SCRS West. I should have gone this year in Scottsdale, but I didn't. But yeah, there's always next year.
Yeah, and where's SCRS Midwest? I mean, come on, I got Chicago, St.
Oklahoma
Louis,
City.
Indianapolis, pick Oklahoma City.
It's in the Hightower Research headquarters.
Let's represent the flyover
Yeah,
states here, man. Come on.
Hey man, we got more, people with heart disease and obesity than anywhere in the country. So, so where the clinical trials need to keep happening.
All right.
Cool.
I'm gonna
All right,
have to go, guys.
Yeah, no, all good. We're over our time. So come back next week. Actually, I won't be here next week. Me and Fox will actually be in Philadelphia area at Y Prime's Innovation Summit. So more conferences.
Yep. Alessandro's, try it out. Alessandro's cheesesteak.
And then shout out to Magi. They reached out. Hey, will you speak at Magi? So I'm going to go from Y Prime to Magi in the same week. I'm presenting at Magi Virtual on Friday. I get back on that next Thursday. So conferences all over.
Wow.
So it's big.
Steve Wimmer about to be busy.
Yeah, he is. Get out there, Steve. All right, guys.
All right.
Everybody take it easy.
Subscribe, comment, share.
That's right.